And it is the 6th anniversary of what was the horrific Benghazi terror attack. And Obama's trying to say, oh, that was a conspiracy. It didn't go down the way we know. He's trying to rewrite history. We have the evidence. And in a few minutes, we'll respond to the former president, a Hannity mini monologue. Also, a new low, if it's possible, for liberal morning Joe Scarborough. He used today's somber anniversary to call Trump's presidency worse than the 9/11 attacks. We'll respond to MSNBC's pathetic morning show host. Also tonight, major breaking news surrounding the deep state. We now have tonight, just uncovered literally about an hour ago, brand new text between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. We were right. It now looks like, yes, high-ranking officials in the DOJ and FBI work together to leak false Russian information to you, the American people, to destroy then President Trump, like they did before the election with the phony FISA. You're going to see these damning new texts. And only 56 days to go until the most important midterm in your life. And I do have an urgent warning to you. Come November, everything's at stake. All of that. Plus, Eric Trump joins us in a few minutes. And I have an exclusive interview with George Papadopoulos and his wife, Simona. But that's for coming up later. First, tonight's breaking news, opening monologue. Hard to believe, but 17 years ago today, we were attacked like never before right here on American soil. All told, 2,977 innocent men and women and children lost their lives at the hands of pure evil in our lifetime, fulfilling what they think is their evil ideology designed by an evil man by the name of Osama bin Laden. Now, some of the finest people on earth were senselessly killed. Good, hardworking people in the World Trade Center, first responders, police, over 300 firemen. While everybody was rushing down, they rushed into those burning towers. Many others in the Pentagon, the passengers, the crew of the planes that were brutally hijacked and used as weapons of war, including the brave men and women on Flight 93. They fought back against their attackers. Let's roll, causing that plane to crash in a remote field in Pennsylvania, miles away from what we believe was their intended target in Washington, D.C. Today, President Trump visited a brand new monument honoring those brave American souls, and he delivered these powerful remarks. Let's take a look.
All of America wraps up and joins together. We close our arms to help you shoulder your pain and to carry your great, great sorrow. Your tears are not shed alone, for they are shared grief with an entire nation. We grieve together for every mother and father, sister and brother, son and daughter who was stolen from us at the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and here in this Pennsylvania field. We honor their sacrifice by pledging to never flinch in the face of evil and to do whatever it takes to keep America safe.
Now, tonight, as we honor all of those who lost their lives 17 years ago today, we must never forget the danger of radical Islamic terrorism is real. It is always lurking. They were at war with us. We were not at war with them. We better be prepared, and we better accept that sad but true reality. Meanwhile, one particularly unhinged, MSNBC conspiracy TV morning host seems to have really forgotten just how devastating 9/11/2001 was. Yeah, good old liberal Joe put out a new op-ed. He put it in the Washington Post. It's entitled, "Trump is harming the dream of America more than any foreign adversary ever could." Yesterday, the day before 9/11, literally, he's promoting this absurd article, and he sends out a tweet. It reads, quote, "My latest, Trump is damaging the dream of America more than any terrorist attack ever could." And according to the tweet and that op-ed, Joe Scarborough thinks Trump is worse than 9/11, where we lost nearly 3,000 people. Yeah, the economy's turned around, Joe. People have jobs, 4 million fewer people on food stamps, 4 million new jobs are created. Really? That's how low you're going to sink? You know, sometimes I literally hang, there's no net underneath me right now. This is a live show. I do 3 hours of live radio every day. Sometimes you can say things and they come out wrong. As Congress would say, revise, extend our remarks. Some things can be unintentional, slip of the tongue. This was a thought out, written piece. He spent time thinking of this. And today on his dumpster fire of a morning show, he doubled down on stupid. Watch this.
If you strip America of its ideas, forget about knocking down buildings in the financial district, forget about running planes into the Pentagon. Those are tragedies, but those tragedies bring us closer together. America is an idea. You gut America of that idea. That's when you do the most harm. The retweeting of neo-Nazi videos, Charlottesville. I mean, I could go on and on. What he said about majority black countries. That is tearing more at the fabric of America than attacks on the Twin Towers did. We rebuilt from that. We became stronger because of that. But this seems to me a far graver threat to the idea of America.
Hey, Joe, kids grew up without their fathers and mothers. And after facing much backlash for his absurd comparison, Liberal Joe, he partially tried to backtrack his well-thought-out, quote, column and said that he should have shown more care in wording his tweet. And then his blushing bride-to-be, fellow host Mika Brzezinski, vigorously defends him on Twitter. Of course, America's, cutest couple. Joe and Mika, perfect example of what happens when Trump derangement syndrome gets way out of control. At this point, I don't even think these two can ever recover. It's that sick. We'll deal more with this later, but we now have some very important breaking news tonight. Literally minutes ago, Sarah Carter handed us brand new, never before seen, unearthed text once again between FBI lovebirds Strzok and Page. Why don't they just hand them all over? It's September 2016, months before the election. It appears Strzok and Page were working or contributing to an op-ed about Russian election interference. Look at your screen right there. September 2nd, Lisa Page asked Strzok, quote, "But we are still writing the op-ed, yes?" Strzok then responds, "Yes-ish." And on September 5th, 2016, the Washington Post, they published a story about Russian interference. On the very same day, Sarah Carter reporting tonight, the former FBI lovebirds share a link to an article. Strzok writes, "Just read the article. We say a lot of the same things. I guess that's okay." And then Page writes back, quote, "Yeah, but that's why ours is going to need to be more folksy. So it's not like a news article." Maybe they talk, maybe like more smelly Walmart people-ish. Strzok had said that. Add these new texts to what was released yesterday from Congressman Mark Meadows in North Carolina. You have a pretty clear picture of what's going on, including this text from Strzok to Page. It took place on April 10, 2017, reading, quote, "I had literally just gone to find this phone to tell you what I want to talk to you about, media leak strategy with the DOJ before you go." Oh, FBI and DOJ colluding. And then 2 days later, on April the 12th, Strzok warned Lisa Page that two damning articles were coming out about her namesake, Carter Page. And then on April 22nd, we originally believed this was on April the 12th. Meadows' office corrected that earlier today. Same point, though. Peter Strzok tells Lisa Page, quote, "Articles out. Well done, Page." This is what we've now been telling you. What is a coordinated effort, the highest levels of the FBI and the DOJ leaking anti-Trump information before the election, after the election, to the press, first to stop him from becoming president, then to destroy his presidency. But sneaky Peter Strzok, he's now trying to actually put out his own conniving spin on this fresh new scandal. His attorney says the term media leak strategy in Mr. Strzok's text refers to a department-wide initiative to detect and stop leaks to the media. The president and his enablers are once again peddling unfounded conspiracy theories to mislead the American people. Oh, but our words sound exactly alike. We're going to have to make it more folksy. Don't insult our intelligence. This is the same Peter Strzok who claimed under oath that political bias didn't impact his work as an FBI agent, but Hillary should win $100 million to nothing. Now, the same super patriot who played a critical role in exonerating Hillary Clinton, we know she committed felonies and fomenting this witch hunt from the get-go against Donald Trump while trashing Trump on his work phone, openly wishing Hillary would win the election. How could anyone vote for Trump? I just was in a Walmart. Smelly Walmart people were there. I could smell the Trump supporters. And earlier today, the president responded on Twitter, quote, "So terrible, nothing being done at the DOJ or FBI, but the world is watching, and they get it completely." We did reach out to Strzok, Page, and the DOJ. We've yet to get a response. We'll have more on these breaking news developments. Sarah and Greg will join us in a few minutes, but we shift our focus to what is the most important midterm election of your life. Now, I'm going to say this for the next 56 days. Last night, I called on you to wake up, pay attention. Republicans, to be very blunt, because I only tell you the truth, they're in real danger of losing the House of Representatives. And the Senate, I'm not that comfortable about that either. Look at your screen. If that is your district, you will likely decide the fate of this country in 56 days. If Democrats win these races, the Trump agenda will be stopped. It'll halt right in its tracks. All the progress we've been telling you about, the Democrats, their insane quest for impeachment will begin in earnest. Just listen to Chuck and Maxine Waters. The Senate, frankly, also up for grabs. Republicans lose the Senate, you can forget about constitutionalist judges getting confirmed. It won't happen. And meanwhile, right here on this program, we have long warned that it's only a matter of time before the aggressive, threatening rhetoric and tactics coming from the left is going to result, somebody's going to get hurt or killed. Here's kind of what I'm talking about. Take a look.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome,
please get up in the face of some Congress people.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
Get in their face, chase Sarah Sanders, Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen out of restaurants, just say anything horrible about the First Lady, the First Daughter, even a 12-year-old kid. Over the weekend, well, someone did, in fact, get in the face of a Republican congressional candidate. Guy's name is Rudy Peters. Never heard of him before, but he's running as a Republican in California's 25th district. Guess what? He was approached at a campaign booth by a man who is making disparaging remarks about the Republican Party. Well, that deranged individual then pulls out a switchblade and attempted to stab Peters, but the knife thankfully malfunctioned. And then they had a confrontation. I've said it a million times before. I'll say it again. The tactics of the anti-Trump resistance have gone way too far. And while Peters was able to escape unharmed, and I always blame people for what they do, you can't blame people's rhetoric for what people's actions are, but you've got to admit this is not helping. The next victim might not be so lucky. But if it was a conservative, they'd go nuts blaming, talk radio and the Fox News channel. I'm not holding individuals responsible, but the rhetoric is reckless, it is dangerous, and it's out of control. And more on the upcoming election throughout the show. But first, joining us now with reaction to our big breaking news, he's the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax. It is the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton, frame Donald Trump. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and Fox News investigative reporter and contributor Sarah Carter. Sarah, let's go to the news. This just broke within the last hour or so. You now got new text messages on top of the old text messages. We got a response from the attorney, from Peter Strzok. It is ridiculous considering we can read and we have fundamental, simple, basic understanding of what they were texting back and forth. Let's talk about the new text messages.
Well, I think these new text messages, Sean, really expose what was going on inside the FBI and DOJ. Once again, we're seeing more evidence of basically collusion within the FBI and DOJ to change and shift the narrative during the 2016 investigation into President Trump and then candidate Trump and collusion with Russia. I mean, there has never been any proof of this. We know now, based on these text messages, not only did they use a dossier that was unverified, a dossier that was salacious, one that even Christopher Steele, who he wrote himself, that it was not verified. And now we're seeing in these text messages that they were shifting the narrative. What's most important here, Sean, is that Congress get to the bottom of this. That is why they are asking Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to investigate this. We need to re-question all of these players. Strzok, Page, Sally Yates, the boss of Bruce Orr, everyone. Everybody needs to be re-questioned on this, and they need to find the answers to these questions because, honestly, it's not looking good for them.
Greg.
The statement today by Strzok and his attorney is ludicrous, it's laughable, and it's actually shameful and dishonest. They are saying...
You ever have your kids in life when they're little and they try to lie to you?
Right.
And you're like, don't insult my intelligence. Right. Stop.
They must think Americans are stupid. So they issue this statement saying, Peter Strzok was trying to detect and stop leaks. Look at the plain language of the text. Here's one of them. Article is out, exclamation point, well done, Page. That is not stopping a leak. That's creating a story.
We got to sound more folksy.
Leak.
We got to sound more folksy.
I mean, so all of this just underscores that there was one purpose in mind, and that was to damage Donald Trump and undo the election. And they were all leaking. It wasn't just Strzok and Page. Andrew McCabe now under investigation for leaking to the media and lying about it 4 times. The biggest leaker of all, of course, is James Comey, who stole government documents, gave them to an unauthorized person for the sole purpose of leaking them to trigger the special counsel.
So we have Strzok, Page, we have McCabe, we have Comey, Sarah, we have Yates, or we have Steele, but we also have Rod Rosenstein.
We have
and
Rod
in many
Rosenstein
ways, because he appointed Mueller. I really want to get into this. He kind of holds the keys to the kingdom in a way, doesn't he? Because doesn't he get to decide, A, if, let's say, Mueller writes a report, he will make the decision, if I'm not mistaken, if the report is released to the American people. Number 2, doesn't he get to decide? Rob Mueller has to go to him and say, I want to subpoena Donald Trump, and I want to get him under oath, and I want to have a year-long court fight to make him testify before a grand jury. So if Rod Rosenstein is conflicted in this whole thing, which we now know he is because he signed the 4th FISA warrant, the 3rd renewal, how does that work? And he's a witness in the Comey firing because he wrote the recommendation.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. He's, you know, as far as obstruction is concerned, and if Mueller is going down that road, I mean, Rod Rosenstein himself was the one that wrote the letter to recommend the firing of Comey. He wrote the letter to President Trump, so he's either a witness or a co-conspirator. He can't be in charge of this investigation. And another point, in fact, Sean, he signed that 4th FISA, and this is why it is imperative that President Trump declassify those documents, declassify the FISA documents that need to be declassified, the Gang of 8 dossier that they showed to particular members of Congress. That's very important because that also contains exculpatory information, and the Bruce Orr interviews with the FBI. Once all that information is out, the American people are going to know the truth. And that's why it is so important to hold these people in the DOJ accountable and get those documents declassified.
I don't think the president should do it all in one dump. I think if they're all so important, you should do one day. Let the American people absorb the magnitude of it, then another one, then another one. But here's the thing. What is the culpability here of Rod Rosenstein, Greg Jarrett?
Oh, it could be tremendous. It depends on what's in the Rosenstein renewal.
Will he be the one that decides whether or not they pursue a subpoena against Trump? Does he make that decision, or does Mueller make it?
Well, it would be Mueller initially, but with permission and consent of Rod Rosenstein.
And if Rod says no, it doesn't happen.
Rod Rosenstein is so conflicted, he shouldn't just be not in the Department of Justice.
Wouldn't he
should
get
be nowhere
mad, though, if Donald
American
Trump
government.
Wait a minute, but here's the conflict. Wouldn't he get mad if Donald Trump releases the FISA warrant that he signed? And does he then seek revenge by saying we're going to go after and subpoena the president?
He might well do that. Look, he has every interest to continue to obstruct
so he holds
the release
keys
of
to the
these
kingdom,
documents.
doesn't he?
He absolutely does. This is a man.
So if you release anything about me that makes me look bad, I'm going to unleash Mueller even further on you.
He absolutely could. This is the abuse.
Is that justice in America?
This is the abuse of power, and there's no justice at the Department of Justice currently under Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions.
Last word, Sarah.
You know, he could, Sean. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the American people deserve to know the truth. We deserve to understand what happened here, and we deserve to move on. So we need those declassified.
All right. Unbelievable information. That close. Cards are going to come tumbling down. Thank you both. You guys have been amazing throughout the process. Eric Trump is here in studio also. First time together. George Papadopoulos, he's got to spend 14 days in jail. His wife Simona, who fought so hard for him, they'll join us on set. I have an important monologue, and I will address Barack Obama calling the Benghazi attack story, the truth by the heroes of Benghazi, a conspiracy theory. As this busy news night continues, we are glad you're with us. Thanks for being with us. All right, earlier today, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, Liberal Joe doubled down on stupid in his comments about President Trump and 9/11. We've got the evidence. Take a look.
The retweeting of neo-Nazi videos, Charlottesville, I mean, I could go on and on. What he said about majority black countries. That is tearing more at the fabric of America than attacks on the Twin Towers did. We rebuilt from that. We became stronger because of that. But this seems to me a far graver threat to the idea of America.
Joining us now with reaction from the Trump Organization, the president, Trump's son, Eric Trump. Good to see you. 1 year tomorrow is your son's birthday.
It is.
Congratulations, 1 year old.
Amazing year.
All right. I don't even know if I have a lot more to say about Joe, except it's so cruel and so mean and so vicious, even for him, and he took the time to write it. I've said dumb things and had to take it back, but we're not on a delay. We're live.
Look how uncomfortable Willie Geist looked. Do you see him?
Oh,
He's sitting
yeah.
there. He wanted to get the hell out of there. I mean, he was so uncomfortable. But what a stupid comment. I mean, what an unbelievable stupid comment. And sometimes I watch a show and literally you almost can't watch. It's almost unwatchable. You end up turning it off because it's crazy. 9/11 was the greatest tragedy probably in the history of this country. You had 3,000 innocent people perish that day to absolute savages.
It's horrible.
He compares that to a man who gave up his life to run for commander-in-chief to better this country, and by every economic measure, by every quantifiable measure, this country is doing better. I don't care if you look at unemployment, if you look at GDP growth, if you look at stock markets, if you look at 401ks, if you look at the amount of people who have come off food stamps. I mean, I could go on and on and on. How about the largest tax cuts in the history of this nation, jobs coming back to this nation, consumer confidence being at an all-time high? I mean, I could go on and on. What kind of stupid comment is this? And it's quite frankly the reason that Joe and Mika have no watchers in the morning. How many watchers do they have? 500,000? You know how many people are watching tonight?
I watch Fox and Friends. That's what I watch. So I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's silly. People are tired of this. You know.
It's just there's a certain insensitivity meaning, but this is Trump derangement. You're right. Let's say that some people don't like your dad's style. That he fights on Twitter. That he takes on all comers. That he's combative. He doesn't apologize for things that the political class demands he apologizes for. So what? For me, we got 4 million more Americans working. We got 4 million fewer Americans on food stamps. All the things you talked about. But more importantly, he keeps his word. Yeah. Conservative justices, Supreme Court, fighting for the borders. You know what? I would say not having a missile fired over Japan since December is pretty successful. Hostages home, remains of soldiers home. That to me is, and everyone thought he'd start World War III. Kind of worked out differently and better for the whole world.
You know, those savages that took down the World Trade Center, that flew a plane into a field in Pennsylvania, that flew a plane into the Pentagon, they are largely gone because of the actions of my father over the last 24 months. If you go back 24 months, all you heard about ISIS, ISIS, ISIS every day. I mean, he put a war on them like they've never seen before. He handcuffed the military. He let the guys who do the best job in the world, the brave men and women, go after these people, go after these savages. And you don't hear about them anymore. They went from 45,000 soldiers on the battlefield.
Everyone seems to forget the beheadings. Do you remember the beheadings?
How about throwing people off of buildings? How about everything? People do forget about that, and it's very sad. And it was a stupid comment by Joe, one that obviously he instantly regretted.
He actually doubled down on stupid. Yeah. And then he got a lot of pressure. Then he kind of pulled back halfway. Look, I don't call for boycotts. I don't want anybody to be silenced. In the end, it's always conservatives that they want to silence. He can say whatever he wants, and people have the power to watch or not watch. Let me talk about these elections in 56 days. I keep saying it's the most important midterm in our life. Sure. But the track record over 100 years, it's only happened 3 times. The last time was George W. Bush after 9/11. That party comes to power in the White House and they don't lose seats in the House or lose the control of one of the chambers. It's it's an uphill task.
Yeah, it might be. But what are the Democrats' message right now? Let's raise taxes. Right, that's one of their messages. Let's raise taxes. Let's go after our amazing law enforcement. Let's abolish ICE and let's eliminate plastic straws. I mean, that's literally the message of the Democrats right now. I mean, they have no leadership. Yeah. You saw the disaster that was the Kavanaugh hearings, where you have Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and everything.
Unhinged.
They're up there grandstanding. I mean, the poor guy didn't even get to speak for the first 7 hours of the hearing because they're sitting there going back and forth, running for president of the United States up, on the stage. I mean, it's crazy. I don't think America's into that, right? You look at how well the economy's doing. You look at how good we've done.
You raise a good point, but your dad's a charismatic guy. A lot of people voted for him in 2016. It's hard to transfer charisma to some of these candidates, they suck.
Yeah.
I mean, they're weak. They don't have a backbone. But they're not going to impeach your dad. I believe Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer reveal what their strategy is. They want their crumbs back. They want to rescind the tax cuts. They don't want conservative justices. They want to abolish ICE, as you said. They want to keep Obamacare. Name one thing that they're offering the working men and women in this country, the forgotten men and women, that's going to make their lives better.
And then Obama comes out and takes credit for it this week, which is truly shocking, right? I mean, they all fought against this tax cut, the greatest tax cut in the history of the country that puts so much fuel into our economy and is causing all these unbelievable numbers that we're seeing every single day.
You see what the Atlanta Fed just projected?
They all voted against this.
They projected 4.7 GDP for the third quarter.
It's amazing. And by the way, they had to revise GDP upward
to 4.2
this quarter. And do you remember the New York Times and the LA Times? They all made fun of my father during the election. You know, he says he can get above 3% GDP. There's no way he can get above 3% GDP. He's dreaming. Then he gets 4.2% GDP, and they're crickets, right? They're talking about Omarosa. They're talking about some crazy book that comes out this week. I mean, no matter what he does, they won't give him credit, and it's horrible. But you know what? The people of this country...
You're pretty calm about it. I'm not as calm as you.
The people of this country are really smart. They see through nonsense. They see through BS. And
but in 56 days, if they want this to continue...
Sean, he's going to... Yeah, it's better go out and vote. By the way, by voting for Republicans, you're helping him succeed at the mission...
that you elected in 2016.
That's right. And if you don't, you're effectively voting against him. But he's going to do incredibly well. He's going to keep winning for this country. And he's going to win again in 2020.
Is there a reason for the new look or what?
Do you like him?
Who cares what I like?
My wife won't let me shave.
Thanks for sharing. Good to see you.
Thank you as well, Sean.
George Papadopoulos, his wife Simona in studio. When we come back, also, I have a little monologue addressed to President Obama saying the Benghazi attack is a conspiracy theory. I actually interviewed those heroes. He's lying. Straight ahead.
I get it all the time.
WeatherTech. Complete protection, completely American-made.
All right, last week, former Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos was sentenced to 14 days in jail for lying to the FBI. He joins us in studio, along with his wife, who's been very outspoken and supportive. Simona is with us. You guys just got married.
Yeah, we did, Sean.
You married him in the middle of all this?
In the middle of that. That's true love.
No, that's true. And you were fighting for him on TV, which I liked a lot. Congratulations.
She's a real killer. You know, she's from Napoli. She's not Russian like everybody thinks.
Yeah, no, everyone thinks. She's from Italy.
She's coming from mafia land.
Exactly,
okay?
mafia land.
All
right,
easy now, easy. Look, I don't want to go over these old interviews. What do you want the American people to know, especially about this professor? And what do you want the American people to think about your experience with Robert Mueller, how you got tied up in this? I was all over the campaign. I never met you that I know of. And I'm like, who, George? Who? You were in one meeting with the president or then the candidate. Did you ever meet a Russian?
Never met a Russian official in my life, knowingly, no.
No. Tell the American people what you want to tell them about your story and your experience.
Yeah, so, you know, initially when candidate Trump was very vocal about wanting to work with Russia at some level, I basically thought it'd be a good idea for him to meet Putin just for a photo op. That was the basic understanding. I meet this professor randomly in Italy who he presents himself as some sort of high-level connected figure to both European governments and to the Russian government. All of a sudden, he introduces me to a girl who he calls Putin's niece. She's not Putin's niece. I don't know who this person was. He then can't introduce me to even the Russian ambassador, which I wanted to meet at the time in London. He then introduces...
You thought you were doing what the campaign said they want, yeah, which is better relations with Russia.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So then, yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden, one day, out of the blue, he drops his bomb on me about emails. I have no idea what he was, you know, where he got this information from. He said he was coming back from Russia. I never saw emails. He never told me where the emails were. He just dropped his bomb on me and then he just went his own way. So I don't know what his purpose was. It was incredibly shady. And to this day...
The professor, though, before your sentencing came out and said, no, you had never talked about these things.
And you know what? His lawyer just a couple days ago went on CNN and said he might have been working on behalf of somebody else. I don't know.
Why did you apologize for lying? Did you consciously lie?
You know, during that meeting, that January 27th, 2017 interview, I did consciously lie. You know, it was a
Why? Why would you lie? Because it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong in what you knew. Did you know anything that was illegal?
I mean, all I could say about this, I didn't plead guilty to collusion. I pled guilty to lying. And, you know, everybody makes mistakes, but certainly I wasn't pleading guilty to any sort of collusion.
When you lie, people think you're lying to protect somebody. Were you lying to protect anybody? The campaign? Why did you feel a need or desire to lie?
You know, looking back, it was a chaotic moment, you know, and sometimes you make mistakes. That's all I could say about it.
All right. Now, you have an interesting story, Simone, in terms of this professor. How did you meet him, and what you found out things that I didn't know about him?
Well, I shared those information with the FBI and the Congress, but none of them quoted me apart from my interviews on TV. I met Professor Mifsud at least 5 years ago through the head of the socialist group at the European Parliament. He's a professor at the Link campus in Rome, which is a partner of the company's director of in London. And this company, this university trains Secret Services agent of tied Western intelligence. He's also member of the Clinton Foundation. He claims to be a member of the Clinton Foundation. He has
the Clinton Foundation.
Yes.
Donated to the Clinton Foundation?
Yes, twice. It has been proved that he donated. Yes, exactly. So my point has always been how the profile of this professor and his background fits with the narrative of the Russian agent. There is nothing that leads to believe that he's a Russian agent, as nothing leads to believe that I'm a Russian spy. You know, everything seems to me so fabricated, so fictitious, and it's just insane. And as I said, I was a witness in the case, and I shared this information as direct witness of this person with both the FBI and the Congress.
You faced 5 years in jail over this. Do you think you were set up? How did this professor get into your life? How did this guy from Australia all of a sudden? Did you know anything about the Clinton emails that were going to be released other than what was in the public domain?
Of course not. I mean, the only thing I knew was probably what everybody else was speculating at that time was that Clinton's, Secretary of State server might have been compromised. That's, what was going through my head. And, I met all these random people in London. London was a very strange city for me during those months. That's where I met the professor, I met Downer there, I met Halper there.
We all learned you like gin and tonics, and you were a little drunk when you were talking to Downer.
You know what's interesting about that, Sean? I've never, admitted to remembering anything about that. I remember a lot about that meeting. I remember the context about that meeting, and it was done under extremely suspicious circumstances.
You were suspicious. You thought you were being recorded.
I was so suspicious that I actually notified the FBI when I was talking to them that I thought that Downer was recording me with his phone illegally. As we all know, if a Five Eyes country member, meaning Australia or the UK, is spying on an American citizen, it's illegal.
This is something that a lot of people don't know. And that information gets shared, doesn't it? And that's a way to spy on people, keeping your hands clean, isn't it?
I don't know. All I know is, if one of our Five-Eyed allies are spying on Americans, it's illegal. So whatever he was doing, I felt the need to notify the FBI about it, and I did.
How was Mueller and his team to you, both of you?
To me, were intimidating, mostly when this is something I never said. After my interview, they came to see me at the airport while I was boarding to my flight to Rome. And for an Italian tourist visiting the United States is extremely intimidating.
I've got to run. You could have spent 5 years in jail, 14 days. Can you handle that?
I can handle it. I have a very strong wife here, and we're looking forward to moving on with our lives. And
well, you may be, who knows? You may just say 14 days. That's way too long. No, I'm actually happy that it's not longer for you. I think you got caught up in something way beyond you. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks so much.
Simona, nice to see you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
When we come back, former President Obama calling the Benghazi terror attack that left 4 Americans a wild conspiracy theory. I interviewed those brave men. It was not a conspiracy. We'll set the record straight in a mini monologue straight ahead. On 9/11, our world changed forever. We'll never forget what happened 17 years ago. But tonight, it's also important to remember another date. 9/11/2012, 4 brave Americans lost their lives during what was a horrific assault against a U.S. diplomatic post in Benghazi, Libya. For 13 hours, no American jets were scrambled near the attack. No helicopters made it to Benghazi. No Marines were sent to the rescue. Everybody knew that they were under fire. And on Friday of last week, President Obama called his administration's deadly failure to act, subsequent apparent cover-up, nothing more than a crazy GOP-led conspiracy theory. And that is the subject of tonight's mini monologue to Obama. It, too, is a day we can't forget. That is September the 11th, 2012. U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, Foreign Service Officer Sean Smith. I've met his family. CIA contractors, Ty Woods, another great family, and Glenn Doherty. They were all murdered, some of them big heroes in all of this. This was a well-coordinated assault. Dozens of heavily armed radical Islamic militants against U.S. diplomatic position in Benghazi. They used automatic rifles. They used grenades. They used RPGs and other military-style weapons. Within an hour, the Obama administration officials, they were briefed about this attack. The U.S. surveillance drone was even sending back live footage. The State Department notified the administration that a radical Islamic terrorist group named Ansar al-Sharia was responsible. The militants, they quickly overran the lightly guarded main U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi and set fire to the ambassador's quarters under heavy fire. By the way, that Ambassador Stevens had requested many times of Secretary of State Clinton and her office that they get reinforcements. They were denied. Many Americans managed to, thankfully, evacuate because there was a nearby CIA outpost, which was subsequently attacked by multiple waves of jihadists. This all occurred over the course of 13 long hours. Right here on this program, I had the privilege of interviewing the brave men and women who were told to stand down, not help, put their careers on the line, and saved literally dozens and dozens of lives, and two of them you saw lost their life. And they told the truth about what happened that night. Let's listen to those people that were there.
I was there when the consulate got attacked and the wall got blown open. You know, at the time, there was only 2 security guys there when that happened that night.
Right, but Great Britain had left. The United Nations had left. Others had left, right?
Just listen to those guys' aggravation about, we've been requesting more security, and they just don't know why it keeps getting denied.
And you knew it was a hotbed for terrorist training. Everybody knew.
We were told to wait 5 minutes in, told to stand down. The words stand down were used. There's no confusion. They were used 15 minutes in, and then 10 more minutes there, 25 minutes, and we're told to wait again, and we finally buck orders. It's hard to maintain your composure, but you do. The full truths weren't being told. That's why we did, and why we are telling the truth right now.
Just the opposite of what Obama said. I guess Obama missed those interviews because on Friday, he's trying to rewrite history, claiming that his administration's shameful actions surrounding the Benghazi attacks were nothing more than a Republican-led conspiracy theory. Watch him lie.
The politics of division and resentment and paranoia has unfortunately found a home in the Republican Party. This Congress has championed the unwinding of campaign finance laws to give billionaires outside influence over our politics, embraced wild conspiracy theories like those surrounding Benghazi or my birth certificate, rejected science, rejected facts on things like climate change.